I love the idea of being financially successful, making money, but it wasn't fulfilling. And I wasn't improving anyone's life and making anyone's life better. So I always had this like emptiness that was sitting there for a long time. I believe so much in the power of intention and the law of attraction and all of these things, but you can never know how that path will go. I reached a point where I was going to let it fold, either just forget it because this isn't worth it, or try one more effort. It has to be a little bit not what others would believe is possible you have to believe in, but then again, it has to become reality. I remember hitting a milestone of $10,000 a month in revenue, and then a milestone of $20,000 a month in revenue, and then 30 and 40. And each time it's like, wow, like we're really, this is really happening.
Each week I seek out individuals who are chasing and achieving their own goals on their own terms. Each have their own individual motivation, focus and passion. Their stories will change your perspective on what is possible, open your eyes to what real people are doing, how they're doing it, and hopefully inspire you to do what you want to do on your terms.
Basically, I mean, if you look at the stats of people searching on the internet, it's enormous, and it's actually still increasing. And when people are searching and they find you and come to your website, they're an inbound lead, and they're much more likely to engage with you, to trust your brand, and to buy from you or to become your potential customer. So, if you can rank higher in Google, if you can get more traffic from Google of people searching on Google, it's going to be a lot easier for your business to make money, or for whatever it is, maybe if you want brand recognition or those kinds of things. If you want to make more money, or you want your business to be more successful, you need to find customers, you need to find people, and Google is a great way to do that. My business today is a digital marketing agency, which we focus on SEO, and that's search engine optimization for Google. And now I would consider myself a business owner, entrepreneur. I was trading in the stock market for 10 years. And during that time, I had started, I did like an accelerator to start a software business. I never did that, but I started the life coaching lead generation business. That was like 2013. And then I did SEO for that business. And so then a year and a half ago, I decided the SEO is such a bigger opportunity. Let me shift off and start the second business. If that makes sense.
Yeah, completely. So were you doing both at the same time?
Yeah, I was doing trading and the life coaching thing on the side, and then still have the life coaching thing, and now doing the SEO thing is the primary thing. Yeah. When I was trading, I mean, I love the idea of being financially successful, making money, but it wasn't fulfilling, and I wasn't improving anyone's life and making anyone's life better. So I always had this like emptiness that was sitting there for a long time. So then I had to decide to start a business, which I always wanted to do deep down, didn't realize it. That's how I got into doing the life coaching business. And then from there, the life coaching business is kind of the other way around, where I'm most passionate about it, but it wasn't as profitable in a way. So therefore, the greatest opportunity is with the SEO business.
Fantastic. And what gave you the idea for SEO? How did that come about?
The idea it just kind of presented itself to me because with the life coaching business, I finally figured something out where I had been banging my head against the wall for enough years and trying enough things that weren't working. And so I did, a strategy that resulted in like 4 or 5 times all the traffic. It took me like, 3 years to get. It was like, wow, okay. And it was like, this is so much more valuable to just my little business. It's more valuable to businesses that are selling, more expensive items or have more of like a serious business model than like my little life coaching business.
Yeah, and with that, you say little life coaching business, but you have, is it 200 people a month you help?
Yeah, requesting a life coach every single month. We have, I think it's like over 700 coaches on the platform, but they're not all active, so I couldn't even tell you the actual number. And that website has over 20,000 visitors per month going to it.
That's incredible, absolutely incredible. And what have people said about it? So what are the kind of results you've seen from it?
That's the crazy thing is I'm less in the loop, because when I used to be like answering the phone myself and like getting an email and like being in the mix, right? Now I'm out because all of that stuff is happening outside of me. So it's really fascinating to see when people are making a request for a life coach and they're like, I've got this problem in my life, I didn't want to change it, and I'm lost, and all these kinds of things. But I'm no longer involved in the connection, right? I'm just a matchmaker, and the coaches actually bring all of that to it.
When you started off, if you think maybe sort of 10 years ago, did you think you would get here? Was that your goal originally?
No. In some ways, yes. I've been thinking about this so much more. I believe so much in the power of intention and the law of attraction and all of these things, but you can never know how that path will go, right? So for me, SEO, I never thought like I would be doing SEO. when I started that business for life coaching, I was supposed to be starting a software business, and it turned into a lead generation business, which is totally different. And I thought I'd be like trading in the stock market or investing or doing something in finance. So none of the things I really thought I'd be doing, I'm doing.
It's all a good surprise.
Yeah.
And if you could have made your life a lot easier, so say when you started the life coaching, what would you have said? What are the steps you'd have taken differently than what you took then?
For the life coaching
Yeah.
business? It's hard to say because, yeah, it's like knowing what I know now, there's a lot of things I would have skipped. The problem is, and I was talking to someone about this recently, is that Brian Dean, he's an SEO guy. Actually, I was interviewing myself. I was interviewing him, and he was saying, like, if he didn't try these, like, dozen or so different things and work at them, he wouldn't have never found out what would have worked and what didn't. So that was kind of the problem is everything I'd learn and read about for SEO to apply to the life coaching business, like most of it didn't work, but there's no real way to know it without the practice and some of the pain of going through it. And actually, I think it's the other way around. It's like if I knew how hard it was to start that business, I never would have started it because the first year or two, it made close enough to zero that, why would you put in hours and hours and hours and your blood, sweat, and tears into it all the time when you're getting zero out of it? It makes no sense. And so I reached a point where I was going to let it fold, and it was like a fork in the road. It's like either just forget it because this isn't worth it, or try one more effort. And that was actually to have a developer build some software that could help when these leads are coming and people are requesting a life coach. How do you distribute those to coaches? So now we have like a back-end software that just does that automatically, where before that is like I had to manually do it. But it's hard. All this stuff is super hard.
What would you say were the highest moments and the lowest moments of your last 10 years?
It depends because with trading, should we talk about trading or should we just talk about these two things?
Go for both of them because they're probably completely different, but I guess you have a lot more highs and lows in trading.
Oh my God, trading. I mean, there were days I make like, I don't know. There are some days I could look at it and make like $30,000 in one day. Like, holy crap, like that's a lot of money to make in one day, right? But then there's days I lost like $30,000 in one day. So, those are extreme highs and lows. With the life coaching business, is very different. It's like the lows were just grinding and hustling and getting zero. And then the highs were like, wow, we've made $1,000 or $2,000 this month. Where the month before that, we'd only made like a few hundred. I was like, wow, like we got a real opportunity here. Same with the SEO business. It's like, once, I remember hitting a milestone of like 10,000 a month in revenue, and then a milestone of $20,000 a month in revenue, and then 30 and 40. And each time it's like, wow, like we're really, this is really happening. But the lows are just, they're low. Like you lose a client, like you just signed a deal or you didn't sign a deal, or all kinds of painful problems come up. And actually what I realize now and from some of the things I've learned is most of my time now is spent on just solving problems because those are the challenges and the obstacles to reach those goals. And so it's weird because I feel like it could bring me focused on the negative so much, but it's like if I can just like nail these problems and issues, everything else in the goals should just kind of like happen on their own in a way.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And if someone wanted to start their own business, so let's say a matchmaking service between people who are looking for coaching and those who provide it, or even start trading, what would be the key advice you give them?
Yeah, they're all very different things. And, the problem is, like, even different types of businesses, you need different types of principles and different types of... So I think, a couple of things I hear, and I was actually watching a documentary on George Washington last night, because I'd be my inspiration too, right? His whole thing was about, like, perseverance. Like, if you look at what he went through in the American Revolution, it was just, like, perseverance. I think you certainly need a good element of that. I think you need, like, a vision or a belief. But then I was also thinking how you have to have it be, like, you can have it be, like, a little delusional, or it has to be, like, a little bit, like, not what maybe others would believe is possible you have to believe in, but then again, it has to become reality. So, I think one of the big things is focus and commitment and intentionality. And I think in any business, you really have to be very focused, and you have to be very clear on what are the goals you're going after and what you need to do tactically to achieve those goals. And with trading, it's very psychological. Like what I needed to do to be successful there was, like meditation and like visualization and affirmations and deep breathing, like all kinds of crazy psych things. what I need to do in my business today, a lot of it is, some of it is sales and some of it is marketing, but it's like tactical. Like if I only have my 8 hours in a day, and I'm going to commit to this, where do I need to focus? Because every minute I spend on something that's non-critical is like an opportunity cost that I could have spent on something that can actually drive results. And that's the biggest challenge is, even with marketing, there's like over a dozen different places I could be focusing, but I need to figure out what is the one or two or three that I could just like drill into and be laser focused on.
So super aligned. So I bet your day plan is intense.
Yeah, and I've been like trying to learn like, all right, how does like Elon Musk plan his day? And I've been reading stuff like that, and like what's his name, Bill Gates. You know, a lot of them they're doing it by time blocks, and committing themselves like, in this time period I'm going to focus on this thing. And now I'm actually using a timer. So I set my timer. This thing should take me 20 minutes. I have 20 minutes to do it. Sometimes I finish earlier. Sometimes I go a little bit over. But it helps me to calibrate and say, look, I've got this time in the day, and here are the things like the most important. Because my to-do list is over 100 things. But the reality is, I'm never going to get to like most of them. And I read that somewhere else too. I think Brendan Burchard or Evan Pagan was saying something like that. Like, just be okay with that stuff dropping off, because those are so low priority anyway that like, or you can delegate it or, automate it. Like, those are the other options. So I'm trying to learn from Timothy Ferriss and these other people too, because I always need to up my game.
I think you're right. It's that constant learning, isn't it? That constant, because none of us are born perfect.
100%. And you must know yourself, right? Like, and it's knowing where you're struggling today. And then if I'm like, oh man, I'm really not doing a good job of delegating, because I know it. There's this resistance inside of me, like, I don't want to pass this, I want it to be perfect, or I don't want them screwed up, but it's taking me time to delegate. All of a sudden I'm like watching YouTube videos on delegation, and I'm reading about it and trying to overcome these things, because, if you can get those things going, then everything else should fall into place.
So you sound like you read a lot. Tell me your top 3 books that have impacted you and have made a massive shift in your mindset, or that you'd recommend to anyone else.
Yeah, I love The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that's not so much about goal setting and achievement. It's quite the opposite, but it is about like that inner peace and being in the moment, because life is so short. And it's a really crazy, weird thing that we're here once, we only live once, and our lifetime. I studied philosophy in school, so I spent a lot of time thinking this stuff, and then it's gone. For me personally, probably not as applicable, is a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. That's been really good for my business, to have the discipline, the organization, and the whole the way to basically, there's a lot I really don't know about like business, right? And I'm learning as I go. I don't know if I have a third one for you, but I've been really just watching interviews on YouTube of people I admire, and I'm like, wow. Because the problem is, Mark Zuckerberg didn't write a book, and Steve Jobs didn't write a book, and the founder of Airbnb, Brian Chesky, and Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, they didn't write books, but they're billionaires and they're super successful. Like, how do you guys? And so I actually kind of believe as well that sometimes watching a video, you can also absorb some more of the energy and how they think and how they express themselves. But books are great. I spent 10 years reading tons of books, and I love books. I just haven't been as into books these days.
See, if Plato had video technology, I'm sure he'd have recorded videos and put them on YouTube.
Who's that, Plato?
Yeah.
Of course.
Could you imagine?
This is what we're doing now. In 2,000 years, people will watch this.